Hey guys, congratulations to the winners Dane Weber, NHT444, Kubaki18, and Marcus Letko. Each winner gets a $25 gift card to speedcubeshop.com, and if you're looking for a cheap magnetic cube, then I recommend the Yushin Kylan V2M, or if you want one that's really good, the Supernova Little Magic M. Thank you to everyone who entered the giveaway. We had almost 7,000 entrants, and also thank you to Speedcube Shop. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. 8 seconds. That was the world record for solving a Rubik's Cube. I thought I was really fast, but my best solve was only 30 seconds. So how could someone be that much faster? It didn't make sense. The world record was held by Yu Nakajima of Japan. I noticed that he was actually solving the cube differently than me. Instead of the way I solved the top layer, which was getting all the corners to the right spot and then doing a bunch of moves to solve them, he would make the top face all the same color, and then suddenly it was solved after that. At the time, there were not that many cubing tutorials, as cubing had a much smaller population than it has today. Sure, there were guides out there, but it was hard to find a consensus on what you should learn and what was the best. Plus, the information was scattered all over the internet, which made it a lot harder to gather all the important things. It was the Wild West of cubing. Only the fast survive. I was just getting into it, so I was obsessed with reading the speed solving wiki, going on the speed solving forums, and watching other cubers on YouTube. I obsess over things pretty easily, so I was set on my mission to learn everything about cubing. I started by learning some new algorithms. I started with beginner OLL, which had a few cases for how to make the top face, and then beginner PLL, which solves the corners, and then solves the edges, which then fully solves the cube. This was like the beginner version of the last layer method that I saw Yu Nakajima using. Learning the new algorithms was really fun, because I knew once I was good at them, I would be much faster at solving the cube. But still, learning new algorithms can be pretty difficult if you're just starting out, because you're not quite as familiar with the common move patterns that you'll see. For example, an algorithm that has 14 moves means you have to remember a sequence of 14 moves, right? Well, if you're experienced, it's not quite that. You can spot common patterns in the algorithm that you already know, and then learn the algorithm very quickly since many parts of it would already be familiar to you. It's like trying to learn a new long word. If you can already group it into parts that you know, it's way easier to remember it. But if you're new to English, it's just a bunch of letters. So because I was new, it took me a while to learn these algorithms, but the hard work did pay off. A few years later, I was in high school. I met a friend named Nick, and he could solve the cube in about 30 seconds on average, which was faster than me at the time. He had a DIY Rubik's Cube and his own silicone spray as lube. I had seen silicone spray in YouTube videos, and at the time it was considered one of the best ways to make a cube faster besides Vaseline, but Vaseline kills the plastic. Nick and I would cube during class sometimes, but if we weren't careful, we'd get our cubes taken away. Amateurs. You gotta be quiet and practice smooth turning if you're gonna cube in class. I mean, pay attention and respect your teacher. Kids, don't cube until you finished your homework. So as time went on, I always wanted to learn more. I read about a method called F2L, where 2 layers are completed at the same time. Being an excited kid, I wanted other people to learn it with me, so I asked some of my friends who also cubed, including Nick, to see if they'd join me on my mission to get even faster. Now the thing is, Nick did want to get faster as well. He was also a gamer, really into music, and probably other stuff as well. But when you're young, you feel like you can do anything and everything. But then what happens is you end up prioritizing certain things over other things. So he just didn't make much time for cubing and slowly drifted away from it. But luckily, I had another friend who was down to work towards this goal with me, to be the best cuber there ever was. His name was Felix, and the rest is history. Just kidding, his name was Sam. Continuing to improve was difficult and took a lot of practice, but of course we just kept practicing. There was no particular end goal for us, I just always wanted to cross the next milestone. So when my average was 35 seconds, I wanted to be sub 30. When I got there, I wanted to be sub 25. No stopping, no slowing down. Actually, there was some slowing down since the rate of improvement usually goes like this. Whenever either of us would get a new personal best time, or PB, we'd message each other being all excited, like, hey, I just got 19 seconds. Well, I just got 18. I hate you so much. After a while, Sam and I were both sub 20 seconds on average. By this point, it was pretty much just the two of us cubing seriously, as everyone else was off doing their own thing. We pushed each other to constantly improve, and it was awesome to have someone to share the hobby with. Meanwhile, my friend Oscar also became really interested in how he could get better at cubing. He already knew how to solve it, but he wasn't really a speed cuber like we were. I was always excited when people wanted me to teach them things, whether it was cubing, video games, or whatever I just happened to know stuff about. I always liked sharing my knowledge and helping other people get better. Sam and I were the cubing experts at our school. Sam kept to himself more, so whenever people wanted to know about cubing, I was the supreme sharer of knowledge. You're welcome. I'll take cash. I still hung out with Sam, but at some point I was seeing Oscar more often because we'd walk home together after school. We lived near each other, so we'd just walk home with our cubes and talk about cubing. At first he was improving really quickly, and always had questions for me, which of course I was more than happy to answer. At some point Oscar stopped getting faster, and then there were days when I'd have to reteach him things that I taught him before. This frustrated me a bit since I knew he did have the desire to get better, but he just didn't practice much. I made sure to tell him the importance of practicing and tried to persuade him to do so more often. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was always the one who was excited to share my knowledge, and he wasn't quite as excited to learn it from me. Well, he was at first, but at some point the fire kind of burned out for him. Maybe he just lost interest, which is fine. But I can't help but feel that I put too much pressure on him and had expectations that he'd practice as much as I did. I had good intentions, wanting him to get better at something that he likes too. But in a way, I probably took some of the fun out of it for him, and I wish I had approached it differently. I had plenty of niche hobbies, and I would also want my friends to do these things with me because it just made it more fun. Usually we start getting into something new together, and it would take up all of our time, and then the other person at some point would just stop. I thought that it was just my personality, where I was more obsessive and sticking to the same thing more often. Turns out, obviously, anyone who tends to obsess over something specific is already obsessing with their own thing, and not the thing that I care most about. Thinking back, there were plenty of times when I had joined other people's hobbies, but then left early when I realized it wasn't for me. But I didn't see that that was happening. Instead of getting friends to follow me, I should have just found people who already liked what I did. I could have looked for local competitions to meet with other cubers, and even if local cubers were hard to come by, I could have spent more time making friends online. But I didn't, and so I started to enjoy cubing less and less. There was schoolwork I had to focus on, I was entering tennis tournaments, and I had just transferred to a new school, so I had new friends to make as well. I still enjoyed cubing, but cubing took too much time, and I just didn't find it fulfilling anymore. And that's why I quit cubing.